Hello, my name's Elle, and today I'm going to show you how I record my instruments at home into my computer, and some details on how you can do it, and what equipment you might need, and some tips just to make it a bit quicker for you to start up yourself. So first of all, if you have an instrument, you're going to need it. I have a bass guitar and the relevant jacks for my amps. So I usually record the bass guitar, but I also record electric guitar sometimes as well, and occasionally I will record with the microphone too. So for this you'll need an XLR cable, so it's two ends, one male, one female, and then obviously a microphone. So now we need to make sure that these are plugged into the computer. So what we'll need then is an audio interface. With an audio interface, you've usually got all the same things, regardless of what brand it is. This one is a TrueMix TM10. So specifically this one has two inputs, here and here. This is just a jack input, so a 1/4 inch, which you usually use for an instrument input, and here is an XLR input, but also works as a jack input too. And each of these channels has a gain knob, which you can adjust when we're trying to get our signals in. I'll show you that later. And then we've also got a monitoring side, so headphones can come out of this, and then we can adjust the volume accordingly. Then there's also some main speaker outputs as well, so left and right, and then also the USB input so that we can plug it into the computer. So let's get it connected up. So when you get an audio interface, they'll always come with a cable, and you plug one end into the back, and then this just plugs into the computer just like you would with a USB drive. Then let's plug in my bass. So I've got my jack lead. This is connected to my bass and my pedals, just like you would with an amp. Treat this as the amp and we'll plug it in. Simple as. Boom, there you go. Now, for example, say we have a microphone, so we'll take our XLR output and just plug it in. Boom, there you go. And then plug in the other end of the XLR into the microphone. So now everything's connected. Let's go into the computer and make sure we get some signal.
So, welcome to Reaper. This is my DAW of choice. So this digital audio workstation is free, but it's very stripped back. So I've used a lot of different plugins, which I found for free on the internet, and I'll talk about those a little bit later. But whatever you use, it doesn't really matter, because they all have the same kind of functions. But the main thing is setting up your audio preferences. With most DAWs, you usually just need to go into your options and look for your preferences. And for us, we're going to be looking at the audio preferences, and specifically which device we're using. So you can see here it has the audio system. So usually this is the driver that makes it so that we have as little latency when we're recording as possible. So usually what I'll use is this one, which is the default for my computer. So we'll keep it as that. And we'll leave shared mode on. And the main thing we want to look out for is the input device, which is what we're taking in to the computer, which is what we're recording. So we want to make sure that we're recording through the TrueMix audio interface. Perfect. So we've got that selected. And then the same for the output, which is TrueMix audio interface. So that's for whatever's coming out of the headphone jack, or if you've got some speakers plugged into the back, that will also count. And you can see that it's got 2 input channels, 2 output channels. So that refers to the 2 outputs on the back of the audio interface that I've got. And then, yeah, we don't need to worry about the block size. And you can see how much latency we've got, 10 milliseconds, that's all right. So we'll click OK. So now we need to make a new track. Make it nice and big. And then let's say we want to record some bass guitar. So what we need to do, and for Reaper and most DAWs, they're always quite similar. It's just a little bit different. It always looks a bit different. And the things that I might be using may be in different locations for certain DAWs. So now what we need to do is turn on record on. So that means that this track is ready to record whenever we press the record button. But first we want to make sure we've got a signal coming in. So on this channel here, this little button, we can see it's an input, and we want to make sure that we've got 2 inputs here for mono. So when we're recording through an audio interface, we are recording in mono because there's only one thing going in. So if we think about the first channel is where we plugged in our microphone, and the second channel is where we plugged in the bass. So we select input 2, then that means that if we can pick up the bass, then we should be getting some signal through. Okay, so if we play some bass, we should be able to see some signal coming through. Yep. And then so what we want to do is just make sure that we can turn up the gain a bit. Sounds pretty good. Now, what I usually do is I will use a virtual amp simulator. So this just makes it sound like you're going through a real amp, but it's in your computer. So what I tend to use is a free plugin called Bass Professor Mark II. So you can find this online, the download, for free. So I can definitely make another video showing you how to install plugins into Reaper. And we can see we can turn up different levels. Low frequency cut, we can turn it up, turn it down, we can adjust the EQ, and so on. So that is pretty much our recording setup ready to go. So all we need to do is hit record and make sure that we've got a good signal going in. So we just need to press record up here, and it's going to give us a few seconds, and now you can see that it's going across the timeline. And if we start playing, go. Press spacebar to stop the recording and again to save it, and now we can listen back to it then. And there we go. That is the bass guitar. Now let's make a new track, and then what we're going to do is make sure we turn on record on. Let's get rid of this. And you can see we've got input 1 in, and that's our microphone. And you can now hear me talking, and you can hear 2 of me actually, because I've got my microphone going into the screen recording that I'm doing at the same time, which is going into Reaper, which we can use to record. So I'm going to mute myself on my screen recording, and then we'll try and record some microphone. All we need to do, like before, let's mute that track, just so we've got nothing else to listen to, and then we'll hit record again. Okay, this is a test, just to see if we've got any levels coming through, and we can see yes, there's stuff being recorded, but it looks quite quiet. So let's listen back to it. Okay, this is a test, just to see if we've got any levels coming through, and we can see yes, there's stuff being recorded, but it looks quite quiet. If we want it to be a bit louder, we might have to turn up the gain on our audio interface. So let's try that again, but let's get a better level. Okay, so you can hear myself. Let's turn it up a bit more, and yeah, that's a bit better. Okay, now let's try recording again. Okay, yep, we're recording. You can see it coming through, and that sounds a bit more fuller. Now, obviously, it depends on your personal preferences, but this is usually a good idea to have it quite loud, but it really depends. So, now we've demonstrated how we can record into Reaper. Now, one thing to note is that process will be a bit different. It will look quite different in different DAWs. For example, FL Studio does look a lot different to Ableton, to Reaper, to Logic, and there's plenty of tutorials out there which can point out what things you need to look for when you're trying to do the same thing as what I've done here today. It just looks a bit different. Most DAWs all have the same features, but you just need to make sure you know where they are.
So I hope this helped, and hopefully now you can understand how I record bass at home. I know a lot of other people do as well. And it's quite a straightforward and simple method. Obviously, you can spend a lot of money getting more expensive plugins or using different DAWs or different audio interfaces and recording multiple things at a time. But for now, home recording, this is how I do it, and I hope it's helped you understand how easy it is to just start off on your own if you're just playing by yourself. So, thank you for watching. Bye.